Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Am I audible?
Wassalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Video.
हाँ, वीडियो यहाँ पर एक्चुअली लाइट की प्रॉब्लम है because I'm traveling. I'm not in my home.
ठीक है.
I am outside. I'm in a different city.
ठीक है.
जी. So पिछली मर्तबा जो है last 2 weeks for different reasons I couldn't take the session. So we are resuming after 2 weeks. And then we'll have a hiatus, a gap of Ramzan, probably, inshallah. So we'll cover as much as we can today, inshallah. So the last time that we were talking was about, since the last few weeks, we have been talking about the key performance indicators for educators, right? And these are very important for the observers, for the people who are in charge, to determine the quality, the performance, the professionalism of the individual teacher as a professional educator. And obviously, it is also important for the teachers themselves so that they understand what are the yardsticks, what are the parameters on which they should excel, in which they should excel, and on which they would be measured upon. Right. So last time we discussed about the fact that the teacher should be good in time management in terms of pacing the lesson, how quickly or how slowly a lesson is being completed. Shouldn't be too fast, right? You're just skimming through the chapters. That it shouldn't be the case. Neither it should be too slow that your portion is not getting completed. And time management also includes how you manage your actual class time. Are you making the other teachers wait outside the class even after the bell has rung? Then your punctuality also matters, that how regular you are in terms of reaching the school on time, reaching the classes on time, ending the classes on time, right? If you are punctual, if you come on time to school, then naturally you will set the right kind of example for your students. Then we talked about setting deadlines and not missing deadlines, right? Because deadlines are meant to ensure that the work of the institution gets streamlined, and the flow of the work of the institution is on track, right? So keeping up with the deadlines like setting of papers, checking question papers, finishing the portion, or submitting whatever is expected in terms of record keeping, and so on and so forth, right? So deadlines have to be maintained. Then we talked about class substitutions, which we generally call proxy classes, right? Class substitutions are an important aspect of a professional teacher's career, right? Class substitutions should not be looked upon as a burden. Class substitutions should not be looked upon as something that is difficult to do, right? Rather, class substitutions should be looked upon as if it is an opportunity to interact with different students, opportunity to do tarbiyah of students, opportunity to impart knowledge, impart hikmat, impart wisdom to the students, train the students, right? These are opportunities, right? If you consider your school work that you do in your school as a opportunity to earn Jannah, as an opportunity to earn Ajr, as an opportunity to earn Hasanat, then you will look at class substitutions not as a burden, but rather as an opportunity. Then similarly, is the case of complementary coaching sessions, remedial classes, right? The teacher should actively participate in these complementary coaching sessions for especially for 10th standard, especially for 12th standard, right? Board exams, right? And remedial classes for especially for students who have missed certain classes, maybe because of their sickness, or maybe some students are not up to the mark in the class, in the regular classes. So whether the teacher is proactive in taking these extra classes, remedial classes, complementary classes, right? This has to be taken into consideration. Then the student handbook, the almanac, or what do you call it, calendar, student handbook. How does the teacher handle that? Whether that handbook is just a book which is carried in the bag every day with no use, or that handbook is practically used by the teacher to give them homework, make them write the homework, right? To make them note down the assignments, the deadlines for projects, whether the teacher is giving merits or demerits, whether the teacher is using the handbook to interact with the parents, right? Whether she's giving notes written in the handbook to interact with the parents, to intimate the parents, right? Whether the handbook is used for marking the uniform, whether the student has come to school in proper uniform or not, right? Marking about the shoes, the uniform, about the tardiness, right? Whether the student is coming on time or not. All of these things that are there in the handbook, right? The handbook has to be activated. Handbook is a medium of communication between the teacher and the parents that has to be activated. If it is not activated, if it is not utilized, what's the point of giving that handbook, right? So whether the teacher uses the student handbook effectively or not, right? The features that are there in the handbook have to be utilized constructively, right? This is something that has to be looked into. How does the teacher interact with the parents? The parent-teacher interaction is critically important. Whether the teacher shouts at the parents, whether the teacher insults the parents, whether the teacher embarrasses the student in front of the parents, whether the teacher ridicules the student in front of the parents, or whether the teacher gives the right report in a nice manner, in a wise manner, in a manner full of hikmah, right? She has to give the report. Whether if the parent comes with some problem, some issue, maybe the issue could be a tiffin box, maybe the issue could be uniform, the issue could be delivery of books, whatever it could be, right? Whether the issue could be a fight that took place between the two students. There could be n number of different issues that the parent could raise concern about. How does the teacher handle those issues? How does the teacher tackle those challenges? Whether she shrugs off, whether she takes too much time with the parent, right? Rather than concentrating on the work at hand that she has to do in the school, right? Which is primarily teaching, right? Some teachers are there, they end up spending too much time with the parents. That balance is important. Striking the balance is important. You shouldn't shrug off the parents. You shouldn't shoo off the parents. And neither should you give too much time to the parents, right? In a very smart manner, in a very logical manner, in a very wise manner, in a prudent manner, the teacher has to handle the parent, right? Without insulting, without embarrassing, without shooing away, right? There has to be that balance. So whether the teacher is able to strike the right balance with the parents, whether the teacher is able to handle the parents, right? Sometimes the parents might be grumpy, sometimes the parent might be angry, sometimes the parents might be throwing tantrums in the school, right? So how is the teacher handling the parent? This is a part of her professional work, professional job profile, right? So this is also an important aspect of evaluation, is also an important aspect of looking at the teacher as a complete professional, that this is a part of her duty. How effectively is she handling, managing the parents, right? Then another aspect is school assembly. How is the teacher handling the school assembly? Whether she is participating in organizing, in managing the school assembly, whether she is taking initiative in preparing the students for the school assembly, in taking initiative. Maybe there could be an item in the assembly quote of the week. There could be an item in the assembly explanation of the hadith. There could be an item in the assembly explanation of the Asmaul Husna. There could be an item in the assembly themes of the week. There could be several items. Whether the teacher takes initiative in preparing the students, whether the teacher takes initiative in giving short sermons, short, crisp sermons in the assembly, right? So organizing and participating in the assembly is also an important aspect of the teacher's work as a professional teacher. Whether the teacher contributes in the extracurricular activities. In the initial few weeks, what we dealt with were her characteristics that she has to demonstrate in the classroom to be an effective teacher within the classroom. Now what we are dealing is allied activities that the teacher has to do as a professional, right? Not just in the classroom, right? So whether she's contributing in extracurricular activities, whether she takes initiative, right? Because there are certain teachers you'll find they'll take initiative, right? If there is a fancy dress competition, she'll go out of the way to search for dress, for an example, right? If there is a annual function, she'll go out of the way to check if the audio system is working or not, whether the stage is arranged or not, whether the flex is made or not, whether the students are prepared or not, preparing the students, revising the content with the students, right? All of these things that are required in extracurricular activities that take place in a school, right? Whether the teacher takes initiative or whether the teacher is very laissez-faire attitude, shows with laissez-faire attitude with regards to extracurricular activities. This is also something that is an important aspect of a teacher's professional career. Then you have trainings, right? The workshops, the trainings that take place, like this training that is happening every morning, and then there could be trainings happening in your schools, right? 1-day training, 2-day trainings, 3-day training, workshops, whether the teacher bunks those workshops or whether the teacher attends those workshops. And if she attends, how actively, proactively she attends those workshops, how proactively she participates in these workshops, right? And how proactively she learns in those workshops, how proactively she learns those skills and develops herself in those workshops. These are also a part of a teacher's professional career. Then self-introspection, right? How effective is the teacher in doing self-introspection, right? It is one thing to sit in a workshop and listen. And another thing to self-introspect. Whatever new learnings are coming across your way, right? Looking at those learnings and introspecting your own performance. How are you performing, right? Is your performance up to the mark? Where you are faltering, where you can improve, right? These are aspects of self-introspection that the teacher must do. Self-introspection is critically important for the growth and the development of any professional, not only a teacher, for any professional. Unless and until you do self-introspection, you will not know where you're lacking. You will not know where you need to improve upon, right? So self-introspection is an important aspect of a professional, right? Any professional for that matter, right? Then whether the teacher, another aspect is whether the teacher has a degree of acceptance of constructive criticism or not. A high degree of acceptance of constructive criticism. Obviously, the criticism should be healthy. The criticism from the supervisors shouldn't be insulting, shouldn't be embarrassing. It should be healthy, it should be productive. But there are some teachers who take the criticism positively, right? If it is a constructive criticism, and work upon that criticism to upgrade, to develop, to iron out the deficiencies, right? And to become more effective, to become more efficient in the work that she does, right? So acceptance of constructive criticism is an important aspect of a professional teacher, right? This is very, very important, because we find many a times if the supervisor gives some inputs for improvement, there are teachers who stonewall, and they are not ready to accept. They continue in the same manner in which they have been conducting themselves earlier. Instead of improving, they take it upon themselves as an ego issue, right? Instead of taking it as an ego issue, it should be wholeheartedly, positively taken as a constructive criticism for self-growth and self-development, right? So this willingness to improve and this zeal to improve and this zeal to implement the training and the guidance that comes along your way, the willingness to improve whatever you learn in training workshops, willingness to implement whatever you whatever inputs for improvement, inputs of constructive criticism that you get from your seniors, you might even get from your colleagues. If it is a positive input for your own growth, you should take it up, right? So this zeal, this willingness is an important aspect of a professional teacher, right? Another aspect is whether the teacher follows the rules and regulations set in the school, for the school, or whether she is the first one to break the rules, right? This is also something that is important, that makes you a proper professional. Rules and regulations of the school are set to be honored, to be followed. Unless and until you respect the rules and regulations of the school, the students also will not respect the rules and regulations of the school. The rules and regulations could be of various kinds. It could be with regards to mobile phones. It could be with regards to tardiness, punctuality. It could be with regards to uniform. It could be with regards to examination policies, and a number of different rules and regulations that the institution sets. So the teacher, as a professional, should honor and respect and follow these rules and regulations. Then another aspect is whether the teacher converts or translates these processes and procedures into practical implementation, right? These processes and procedures that have been set in the school, every school has some process, every organization for that matter has some process, some procedure, some method put in place, right? That this particular form has to be filled in, or this particular what do we call examination evaluation sheet has to be maintained. Whatever procedures and processes you have to be honored, respected, and followed, right? This is another aspect of a professional teacher, right? Then another very important aspect of a teacher is whether she develops a rapport with her students or not. Rapport with the students is of critical importance. Whether the students respect the teacher or not, this has to be observed by the person in charge, right? A degree of connection, a degree of not overt friendliness, because if you become a friend with your student, then the respect of the teacher evaporates, right? The gap between a student and the teacher should be maintained necessarily, but it doesn't mean that the teacher is not accessible. The teacher has to be accessible to the students. The teacher has to have an open door policy with the students. So whether the teacher has developed a degree of rapport, a degree of connection and accessibility with the students, and in turn whether the students respect the teacher or not, this is also to be observed by the in charge and to be developed by the teacher, right? Another aspect is hard work and dedication. These are characteristics of a professional that are of critical importance. Whether the teacher is hardworking and dedicated as a professional, or the teacher just completes the formalities, right? There are certain individuals who just complete formalities, right? They complete the portion, complete the formality. They will never take initiative in any activity. They will never be hardworking. They will not go the extra mile, right? Then they are not being a good professional. So hard work and dedication in the work, right? Because teaching is an energy sapping profession. So whether she is committed in that energy sapping profession, whether she's giving it or her all in the classroom and even in the activities outside the classroom. So hard work and dedication is an important aspect of a teacher's professional career, right? So her attitude is also important, right? Whether she's positive, optimistic in her approach, right? This is also an important aspect of a effective professional, right? Because there are people who will always have negativity. Any new procedure comes in, any new method comes in, any new technique comes in from a trainer, for an example, or any new process comes in, maybe any new software comes in, any new methodology that has to be adopted. There are some teachers who look at it positively, adopt it wholeheartedly, and there are some teachers who are always cribbing, who have a negative, pessimistic approach, right? Who are not willing to adopt and adapt to new circumstances, evolving circumstances, right? So this is what differentiates between a productive professional and an unproductive professional. Positive attitude, optimistic approach. This is also an important aspect of a teacher's career, professional career, right? So this whole concept of taking initiative, having a productive approach, right? Having an optimistic approach, productive approach, right? Trying to come up with productive, excellent outcomes, right? Thinking of how to improve the processes, right? Always thinking of improvement of processes, right? So this productive approach, this approach to take initiative makes a productive professional, right? An efficient professional. Then dependability and accountability. Any task that has been assigned to the teacher, right? The person in charge should be satisfied, should feel comfortable in the notion that this teacher is dependable. Any task given to her, she will do it responsibly, right? And she will always be accountable. She will always give account of what she has done, right? So this dependability, this accountability is an important aspect of an effective professional, right? An effective professional will always be committed and dedicated, right? And not only committed, but perseverant as well, consistent as well. Because a teacher could be punctual for a few days, and then she comes late for the next set of few days. Now, this is not perseverance. This is not consistency, right? Whatever work she's doing, she will do it with dedication, with perseverance, right? With consistency. These are important qualities and characteristics of a professional in any organization, in any field, not only in the field of education, more so in the field of education. Then her behavior, this is also important aspect of her professional career, right? Whether she's cooperative, whether she's sociable, right? Whether she has a friendly demeanor or not, right? These are characteristics that have to be observed in a professional, and that have to be demonstrated by an effective professional. An effective professional will always be cooperative, will always have a very sociable and friendly and cheerful attitude, right? This is important because a grumpy attitude, a negative attitude, an uncooperative attitude shows very negatively, reflects very negatively on a professional. So a good attitude, a constructive, productive attitude is also an important part of a professional, right? Then we discussed about regularity to class and in school, right? There are teachers who bunk very often, who take leaves very often, without thinking that what kind of impact it has on other teachers. Other teachers then have to fill in with class substitutions, with proxy classes, right? And if too many teachers remain absent in any given day, what happens with the management of the school? It becomes a challenge for the supervisor, for the in charge, for the principal, whoever, right? To assign enough class substitutions. You need to have enough teachers to assign class substitutions, right? Then what happens to the loss of the studies for the students, right? So these are important aspects, right? So coming to school regularly and bunking very rarely. You see, casual leaves are not a right of the teacher, right? It's a privilege that has been given to the teacher to be used, right, in emergency situations. It is not something that the teacher takes as a right, right? Rather, it is a privilege that has been conferred upon the teacher to utilize only in extreme circumstances, right? So this has to be understood by the teacher as a professional, that she should not bunk school at the drop of a hat, right? It obviously it leads to the loss of studies for the teacher, for the students, and also it puts pressure on the management of the school, right? So these are important aspects of a teacher, of a teaching professional, right? Then and these aspects overall will be viewed by the in charge, by the supervisor, right? The supervisor, it is the duty of the supervisor to look into these KPIs, these key performance indicators of the teacher, right? These aspects of the teacher's performance within the classroom, as well as the allied activities that happen in the classroom, right? Within the classroom, the in charge can do mini observations, that for a short period of time she's sitting in the classroom and observing, right? The in charge can do full observation, the a significant number of amount of time she spends in the classroom, or the entire period she spends in the classroom. Some of the observations should be announced observations, and some of the observations should be unannounced observations, right? Announced observations allows the teacher to prepare beforehand to give her best performance. Unannounced observation helps the in charge to keep a tab and keep the teachers on her toes, right? So these are important. And the feedback, after I'm running out of time, I'll end with this. And we have reached the end of this particular module of KPIs as well. Maybe after Ramzan, inshallah, we'll start with some other module. So before I end that module,
Sound not coming. Sir, over, huh? From sir.
the teacher is being counseled, when and where and how the teacher has been given feedback. This is also important, right? The location. The teacher should not be given feedback immediately in front of the students. That's insulting and embarrassing for the teacher, right? And the feedback shouldn't be given too late, that you observe in August and you're giving feedback in December. Obviously, there will be a big disconnect. So the in charge people have to keep this in mind when the feedback has to be given immediately within 1 or 2 days, so that it is live in the mind of the teacher what she has performed, how she has performed. And the approach of counseling of the teacher, the approach of the feedback is also very important. This is the last thing before I end. This is important because it shouldn't be insulting, it shouldn't be embarrassing, but the issues have to be highlighted and the teacher has to be encouraged to improve upon, right? I've taken a couple of minutes more today. I regret that. Jazakumullahu khair. Wa akhiru dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Jazakallah, Ghufraan sir.